that would probably be asking too much. But there is, when you want to address your users, you don't normally have them all on one platform, right? It means my son will not change his girlfriend because she has an iPhone and he has an Android, or because she's on Orange and he's on Vodafone. Social interaction does not normally grow in technological silos. So Skolu, which is my old company, is now part of RIM, but still very, very cross-platform. We're a social gaming platform, big toolkit. I think we're actually at 135 million users now or so, across Android, across iOS, now across BlackBerry, but also Windows Phone 7. And then we support a number of middleware solutions and engines, which are very, very important when you develop games. Maybe not so if you don't. There's a plethora of tools in there, which we sort of clustered into 3 buckets, underpinned by some analytics suite. On the discovery side, the idea is, you have to increase your installed base if you want to get some sort of interaction going. You need people on there, organisms that can exchange themselves over stuff that interests them, over their social object, which is their game. So this gives you very, very easy to implement tools, everything from accessing Facebook and Twitter, but also, which I would claim is the most important social network that any of you has, and that's your phone's address book, because that contains the people that you actually know and that who you will speak to regularly, or more or less regularly, if it's some old in-law that you don't want to speak to. But there are people you know and you interact with. Then all the way on the discovery side, there's tools where you can broadcast out or allow users to broadcast out to their friends, borrowing from this whole army of fanatics concept. When I play a game, I would think, oh, you know what? John might like that because this is a football game and he's really, I know he plays FIFA. So that little snippet of information that I will have because I'm actually a friend of his, which a data algorithm might not necessarily have, because he doesn't play on the same mobile platform. Maybe he plays on an old unconnected console, whatever it is. It's very, very hard to try and mash that together, whip something up out of big data. This is why in certain pieces things like Facebook are so much more powerful than Google, because the question you ask will be answered by people that know you. So if I'm asking for an X restaurant in some town, I might have a friend who knows, oh yeah, last time I took him there and he actually hated that, so that he will not recommend this to me. Now once you have people in there, the idea is to keep them engaged, right? So there's achievement systems. There is in the game side extremely successful peer-to-peer challenge tools where you can basically take any data point in your game or app, to be honest, and use it as a starting point to a challenge. So you could say, okay, level completed, so many points gained. But if you're Starbucks, you could say, okay, so many skinny soy lattes bought, etc. And you can then use that to pitch it against people's friends. On the monetization side, there's a virtual currency system underneath there, virtual goods solution, gifting, etc. What we do is we don't force this down anyone's throat, so you can actually only use 1 or 2 of those tools, or all of them. They're fully customizable, so we don't actually force any type of specific UI onto you either. You can basically take our tools, completely customize them, because if you go back, people want to belong to a certain brand, etc., and that is the brand of that game or of your brand, and not of our tools. So you can completely customize it, and we build it in a very, very modular way so that you can use some or all, but you can also combine features with each other. So if you, God knows, let's just use the first one. If you have the user profile, then you also, there's a friend list attached to each other, and if you combine that with a virtual good, then all of a sudden you have virtual gifting without having to build something new, but only simply by combining those two. And then on the BlackBerry side, and this is why we were actually very, very excited when we sold Scroller to them, they have this neat little thing, which in the UK most people are very, very familiar with, because it is an incredibly intensely used service. That's BBM, BlackBerry Messenger. Now, BBM is 55 million active users, and by the way it is built, it provides you actually access to a very, very powerful social graph, which is a permission-based one, because we don't actually dabble with it, and this is the user's graph. Now the API is open for everyone to use, and what we have been seeing is when I think it was released about 6 months ago or so, to outside BlackBerry's own products, and it drives usage and uptake by up to 15x. So the good folks from Foursquare who were just here had, after they incorporated the BBM API into their BlackBerry app, saw an upswing that we got a phone call from them and said, look guys, can you check your servers if the pings are right, because we're getting far more traffic back from BlackBerry now than from most other platforms, and we think that can't really be right. But it was, and what it does is, I mean, the original implementation, all it does is the moment you check in on Foursquare, it updates your little status message on BBM with your check-in location. If you know someone who has a BlackBerry and uses BBM, then you know how intensely they do use it. It's amongst the younger people, they send up to 3,000 messages a month. The average use of this service is absolutely mind-boggling. You can take the API, you could integrate it into a game, into an app, etc. So you can if you're, God knows, we'll take some wild example. If you're a fashion brand and you use an app in order to display your latest collection of summer clothes, you could enable in-app chat in there. You can but that's not some external chat, that is actually the BBM chat that people use, and where all their friends are on anyway. You can use the API to have page links, apps sent through to friends, etc. You're much closer, and once you are in that piece, going back a couple of slides again now, it is very, very, very relevant, and it is within the social context people are in anyway, because they are their friends, right? So if I find a nice pair of shoes, I might send this to a friend who's an utter shoe geek. I will certainly not send it to my son, because he thinks it's the most boring thing in the world. But the result is that people know that whatever they get on this has a much higher likelihood to be relevant to them. That's it. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Any questions on the manual? Not even the game developer?
I mean, I skipped a lot of the detailed stuff.